challenges of being an older parent. So, I have recently become a father, and at the age of 40, becoming a father is interesting. Now, for me, there are quote unquote pros and cons with becoming a younger parent and becoming an older parent. There are advantages to being an older parent. My identity is more established. I know myself at a greater level. I'm more aware. I've chosen to move through shame and pain and unpack my childhood and my trauma and the heavy stuff that I've experienced. I've established myself in the world at a deeper level. I know myself a lot more. I'm more content with who I am. My self-worth is greater. I know my value. I know my vision. I have greater clarity on the path that I am walking. I also am more comfortable with difficulty and challenge as opposed to when I was 20 or 25 or 30 or 35. I'm able to be more resilient, and I'm able to be tougher in situations that call for it. I have expanded my sense of compassion. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And the interesting thing is that many of the pros, if you like, or the advantages of being an older parent or an older father are also, many of them are also the disadvantages. And I'll say this, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And we've all heard that, or at least most of us have heard that before. And with respect to identity, who I am in the world, how I associate, how I derive my utility and value, how I make meaning of things, how I seek validation from others, both unconsciously and consciously. That there is deeply impacted as I'm older. Now I have this beautiful little being that I love and I cherish and I care for, and also requires tremendous responsibility and has taken me away from my quote unquote routines, has deviated me from what has become my norm. And as I get older and I become older, I become more entrenched in my own habits and patterns and ways of being in the world and ideologies and values. And I very much assign to an ethos of the more I know, the less I know, and to approach life with curiosity. It doesn't always work out that way. I'm not always deeply compassionate and empathetic. I'm not always super clear. I'm not always really curious and not activated and charged. I become dysregulated in my nervous system if I feel attacked or if I feel I need to be defensive or someone disagrees with me. Old stuff comes up and there's almost less space for that now, temporarily at least, right? And when my little girl is in pain or appears to be in pain and she doesn't know, well, she does know how to communicate. She just doesn't communicate how I communicate as an adult now. And she cries or she squirms and she moves and I don't quite understand or know exactly what's going on. And I sometimes interpret that as, oh, she's in pain or I'm doing something wrong. And so all the stuff that I've worked on, the low self-worth, the having to get it right, the aggression, the impatience, the frustration, it's all coming to the surface again to be worked at from a different angle, from a different purview, from a different value set. And I will say this, whilst I am a lot more patient than I thought I would be, a lot more calm than I thought I would be, I still feel frustration coming through. I still feel shame around some of the thoughts I'm having. Yesterday, and this is very difficult to even take ownership of, but I figure that if I'm thinking it, there are other people that must be thinking it as well. And just because I'm thinking it or it's a fleeting thought that I really don't have any control over, it's a thought that's entered my mind, what I do with that thought really matters, and my relationship to that thought really matters. And it brought up some shame and it brought up some guilt. And it was like, oh, did I make the right decision? Did we make the right decision on being intentional in bringing another human being into this world? And it's a big question. And there's so many conflicting emotions and feelings that I'm moving through, sensations going through my body. This elation and joy and deep gratitude at depths that I've never felt before. And this disillusion, this dissolving, which I've spoken to this before, of identity. Right, and being this older father, not older parent, is really interesting because so much of myself has been established, and I've been in this momentum, in this pathway, on this pathway, and there's almost like a pause to that, or it appears like a pause. And so I'm interpreting it as a pause or a stop. And what am I making that mean? And I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't feel completely connected to that. It feels awkward. It feels new. It feels a little scary. It feels like a lot of responsibility. There are moments of overwhelm. And I've shared this in previous videos before around my relationship to overwhelm. I'll just touch on it again now. And it's evolved dramatically, and it has improved drastically. But my relationship to overwhelm was one of, if I'm in overwhelm, I'm weak. I'm not in strength. That means I'm not coping. That means I'm not enough. And then the list goes on and on and on, right? And my relationship to overwhelm has changed now, where I see it as a signpost of, okay, let me pause, because my 2 words for 2022 are pause and vessel. And I'm consistently, on a daily basis, unpacking what those words mean to me. When those words first came to me, they didn't mean something completely different to what they mean now, 3 or so months later. But their meaning has morphed. And pause is also about reflection. It's also about the subtlety of compassion towards self. It's about openness and spaciousness. It's not just about slowing down and breathing slow and seeing the world through a lens that is just tuned down a little. And I'm noticing as well, as an older parent, letting go of my routines or my patterns, my habits, is also a little more challenging. Something as well that I don't speak to often, but again, I want to. Here's the core purpose of this video is to, and most of all of the videos that I do really, is to share with others that we are not alone. That we are not alone in our own internal paradigm of thinking and being and seeing the world. And one of the things that is becoming a little more pervasive for me is the subtlety of obsessing over things needing to be in a particular way. And that can be known as OCD, but without labeling and categorizing to the point where I'm judging myself, just more around the compulsion of things needing to be in a certain place in my life, and the safety that gives me, the sense of control, the quote-unquote false sense of control that it gives me. And I have a tremendous awareness around that, and I see it coming in even more. So the more that my external world is a little out of control or misplaced or new, there's novelty there, and potentially coupling overwhelm with that, the more I need things to be in a particular way. Whether it's how my desk is set up, or how the lounge room is set up, the physical environment, or how I do things, or my timing and routines, whatever it may be, right? Or things needing to be in a particular place. So if I have a thought about, I need to make this amount of money this month, and if that doesn't happen, then it's something that's out of place, right? Or I need to accomplish A, B, and C today or this week, and if that doesn't happen, then something's out of place. And then the pressure, the perceived pressure of this responsibility and wanting to ensure that this baby girl is just brought up in a very healthy environment, it feels like a lot. And I would think at some level, for a younger parent, that exists as well. I just think it exists differently, because when I reflect back to my life when I was 25, my level of consciousness and awareness was very different to what it is now. I don't want to say better or worse. I've definitely evolved, but it's not about better or worse. It's very different. And so not being established, maybe the integration of that child in my life at a younger age is more seamless. Yet the pressure of not knowing myself and being quite ignorant in the world and not being as worldly as I am now would also be a deficit, so to speak. So there's just some thoughts I wanted to share today. It's a blessing having this beautiful girl in my life and being a father to her and a steward for her. And there are some thoughts that come through that they're not pleasant, and I get to work with those, and I get to be with those. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on parenthood. Blessings.